Our next team that we will be moving on to here is my team, and it's the Orlando Magic. My questions for them is like, what will they do? Like, will they actually sell or could they buy for next season and beyond? And if they are going to go out there and try to get something, will they find shooting? Do they kind of strengthen their wing rotation just because like we don't know what Chuma Okeke is? We don't really know what like Jonathan Isaac isn't even a wing and has barely been playing for a while. Gary Harris, kind of an undersized wing. Terrence Ross coming off the books after this year. Are they going to reroute Mo Bamba or Gary Harris or Terrence Ross for that matter if they are sellers? So I have all sorts of questions for them. I do think they're in this unique situation where like you could buy with an eye on the future or the next season. Maybe you take on some money because, yeah, you have cap space this summer. Maybe you want to make a run at Fred VanVleet. But outside of VanVleet, like what's the free agent like you need to go after? So unless you think you have the inside track on him, do you really need to think in those terms? And so could you, if you're getting money where it's no, you're not going to make the playoffs this season, but you're getting a shooter, just a caps lock shooter who's really going to open up things for your ball handlers and Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, Markel Fultz, even Jalen Suggs. Like, do you just go out and make that deal? Do you just sort of stand pat because you want to keep Gary Harris in the next season? You could buy out Terrence Ross to do him a solid. I just like this team they could do stuff. I just feel like they're going to be, do they just move RJ Hampton because he's going to leave after this year? It feels like that's the scale of a move that they'll make.
Yeah, it's a situation where, I mean, a shooter would be great. I think that's probably the most realistic thing to go after, but it's the thing they need second most because they just need, sorry, like Mark, every time we talk about the Magic, I harp on this, like Markel Fultz is fine. But like you just need someone at the guard spot. The playmaking isn't even really that important relative to other teams because of Banchero and because of Wagner. I think you could survive with your forwards and wings being your, shot creators essentially. So it'd be nice if it were a point guard type that could be a secondary creator or tertiary, depending on how those two guys develop. He's got to be able to shoot. But the next best thing, because those guys aren't out there, like VanVleet is sort of like, and then who after that? Like, I don't know who that other guy is. Like, it's not, you don't go after John Wall. You don't go after Mike Conley. Those are just like crazy, trade targets that would not be helpful. So if you're going to go another direction, just go get a shooter. Then the problem is like, well, is there a better one out there than Gary Harris, right, that is at the right cost? Like Terrence Ross, I guess I'd be happy to move him. He just inexplicably, he's kind of like John Collins wishes he'd been on the trade block as long as Terrence Ross. Like he's the GOAT of trade block guys that never get traded. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do either, other than probably look to move Mo Bamba just because he's totally superfluous now.
Yeah, who is he their most likely player to be traded?
I mean, I would say Terrence Ross, but since he's clearly immovable, I think it probably is Bamba because he's got that partial guarantee on next year's salary, and he's only 10.3 this year. So, he's a fraction of that for the balance of the year. He could get you someone at a similar number at another position that you could try to develop, I think. But like, they just don't need another center. I don't think, especially with Isaac back. I just imagine you want him to play some center minutes if he stays healthy.
Yeah, no, he's not even guaranteed anything next year, Mo Bamba. So, like, you could view him functionally as an expiring. Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, although is this the trade I proposed? I don't know if it was. Yes. So I have the Orlando Magic get Joe Harris, the Nets get Mo Bamba and Terrence Ross.
If I'm the Nets, I am in love with the not having to pay either of those guys next year. And I think probably it sucks for Joe Harris that Terrence Ross is a downgrade for sure from Joe Harris, even if we've talked about before how Joe Harris isn't great anymore. But I guess that hinges on Bamba. Is Bamba a big value add for the Nets? They need a big.
He's going to hit more of his free throws than Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton.
Well, and we also have said that if you're going to get a backup big behind Claxton, he better be able to shoot. And that is the other thing Bamba can do. If he's going to play next to Ben Simmons, he's going to space the floor a little bit on offense. Like that's a real thing that the Nets should care about in this kind of trade. Harris is just so clearly the best player in that deal that it gives me some pause. Though.
It's the money for him where it's like, are the Nets going to keep Seth Curry? It's just like, I for the Nets, I feel like he could be superfluous and
Yeah.
just like, but he's still really good. But he's also playing fewer minutes per game than Seth Curry at the moment. And so, are you going to be more invested in keeping Seth Curry because maybe he's cheaper than 19 million a pop?
Yeah.
That's what makes this tough because in a vacuum, I don't know that the Nets should want to do this. At the
Mhm.
same time, like it does kind of even out the rotation a little bit, I guess. Like if you're getting Bamba, maybe you just want to get out of Joe Harris's money and you're viewing this as getting to expiring soon without having to give up any equity. Joe Harris's trade value is weird. There's a lot of teams that I would like to that I think he would just be super useful for. The Magic would be one of them, by the way. I think he'd be a great fit in Orlando.
Yeah, I
Clearly.
agree. Like we said, like if they can't get a you know a real like I don't Harris isn't someone I'd feel comfortable with like starting. Well, I guess he could start at the two. I guess he sort of has started at the two. I just, yeah, I don't know. I selfishly want a little more like playmaking there, but that's what a point guard's for. So, I mean, in theory, although the Magic, have struggled with that.